You're listening to Overhead Story Channel. Enjoy.
It started with something small. A jacket. That's all it was. Just a jacket. Saturday morning, I was doing the usual, taking care of errands so we could maybe have a real weekend. I had just pulled into the line at Sunset Car Wash, halfway through my first coffee, when I remembered the trunk was a mess. Blankets, old hiking boots, a tote bag with jumper cables, and God knows what else. I figured I'd clean it out while I waited. No big deal. Just maintenance. Routine. I lifted the blanket and paused. There it was, neatly folded, like someone had placed it there with care. A cropped black leather jacket. Not one I'd ever seen before. Not Taylor's style. She leaned more towards soft knits, earth tones, the kind of thing that made her look like she belonged in a pottery studio. This was different. Sleek. Expensive. And it still smelled faintly of perfume. Something floral and sweet, like jasmine. My first instinct was confusion, then suspicion. I stood there for a second, trying to come up with some logical reason it would be there. Couldn't. I hadn't used the car since getting back from my trip to Phoenix 2 days earlier. That jacket definitely wasn't in the trunk before I left. I was about to put it back when something crinkled in the pocket. I reached in and pulled out a receipt, folded once, still crisp. Willow Bend in Brookridge, CA. Check-in, Friday 7:14 p.m. Checkout, Sunday 11:03 a.m. Room 214, Deluxe King Suite. 2 guests, 2 nights, paid in full. I read it 3 times. My stomach dropped. I was in Phoenix that weekend. The hotel conference ended Sunday afternoon, and I didn't even get back into town until late that night. Taylor had texted me Saturday saying she was staying in, relaxing. She even sent a picture of her curled up on the couch, wine glass in hand, one of those murder documentaries playing in the background. Said she was binging old favorites and waiting for me to come home. I remembered smiling when I got the message. Now that smile made me feel sick. Tucked inside the receipt was a trifold flyer for a restaurant. One of those upscale, dimly lit places with shareable plates and overpriced cocktails. The kind of spot you only visit on special occasions if you're in love or trying to pretend you are. It was called Etta and Company, and at the top, it read, "A romantic culinary escape, for couples only." The words hit me like a slap. Couples only. Not friends. Not co-workers. Not someone borrowing a car. Couples. I stood there in the sunlight, holding that receipt like it was radioactive. My brain started doing that thing it does when something doesn't add up, going back in time, rewinding through every interaction we'd had the last few days. Had she seemed off? No. Or maybe yes. She'd been distracted Friday when I called. Said she had a headache and needed to lie down. Then Saturday she barely picked up. Claimed she fell asleep on the couch. But what if she hadn't been on the couch at all? I put everything back in the pocket and laid the jacket across the folded blanket. I didn't even finish vacuuming the car. Just drove home with my heart beating like I'd sprinted uphill. She was still upstairs when I got in. I could hear the shower running. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time with the jacket beside me. I kept staring at it like it would somehow explain itself. I even checked the tag, no name, just a boutique brand I didn't recognize. Eventually, I laid the receipt and the flyer next to it and waited. Taylor came downstairs 20 minutes later, fresh from the shower, towel still wrapped around her head. She was wearing leggings and that oversized college hoodie she practically lived in on weekends. She smiled when she saw me, warm, casual. Like everything was perfectly normal. "Hey babe," she said, walking to the fridge. "Back already?" "Yeah," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I found something in the trunk." She glanced over. Her eyes landed on the jacket. A split second passed, just one, but I saw it. The flicker of recognition. The tiny, involuntary blink. The smallest hitch in her smile. "Oh," she said, walking closer. "That's Danny's. I let her borrow the car Friday night. She had some date night thing with her boyfriend and didn't want to drive. Guess she left it in there." She reached for it with a casualness that felt too rehearsed. "And the hotel receipt?" I asked, not accusing, just placing the question. She looked down at the receipt like she hadn't noticed it before, picked it up, turned it over in her hands. "Oh yeah, that must be hers too," she said. "She and Jared were doing some staycation thing, I think. They've been on and off trying to work things out. I'm surprised she didn't mention it." She chuckled like it was all amusing, light, forgettable. But her voice had a tremble. Barely there, but I knew her too well not to hear it. "And the flyer?" I asked. Taylor shrugged. "Probably part of the hotel's welcome package. They love that over-the-top romantic branding. Danny's probably rolling her eyes at it, honestly." She gave a small laugh. I just nodded, pretending to accept it. But inside, something had shifted. I wasn't the jealous type. Never had been. But this wasn't about jealousy. This was about facts. Timelines. Details that didn't line up. It was about a jacket that still smelled like perfume. A receipt from a weekend I wasn't even in the state. A flyer for a place we'd never been, folded neatly like someone had meant to save it. And the way she answered. Too smooth. Too fast. Like she had an explanation waiting before I'd even asked. "Cool," I said finally, taking a sip of my coffee. "Just wanted to make sure we didn't throw out something important." She kissed my cheek and grabbed her phone off the counter, then disappeared upstairs. I sat there another 5 minutes, staring at the empty room. She hadn't asked a single question. Not "how'd you find it?" Not "what else was in there?" Nothing. Just smooth deflection and out. Something wasn't right. Maybe I was overthinking it. That's what I told myself. But that little knot in my chest, the one that had started to twist the second I unfolded that receipt, it didn't go away. If anything, it got tighter. After the jacket incident, things should have gone back to normal. But they didn't, not for me. The problem was, once you notice the first crack, you start seeing all the others. And suddenly, the walls you thought were solid, they're full of holes. I told myself not to obsess. That people forget things in cars. That hotel receipts end up in the wrong pockets. That maybe, just maybe, Taylor had been telling the truth. But then came the patterns. Little things at first. Things that didn't scream betrayal, but whispered it. Taylor started working late. A lot. She was always diligent about her job. Yeah. But she'd never been the type to stay after hours, let alone on weekends. But now there were tight deadlines, team dinners, client emergencies. Always just enough detail to sound plausible, never so much that I could ask questions. One Wednesday night, she didn't get home until almost 10. I'd made dinner, thinking we'd eat together like we used to, but the food went cold while I sat at the table scrolling mindlessly through my phone. When she walked through the door, she looked surprised to see me still up. "I thought you'd be asleep," she said, dropping her keys in the bowl by the door. "I waited," I replied. "You didn't text." "Oh, sorry," she mumbled, heading for the stairs. "I was driving and forgot." She didn't even ask about dinner. She just showered, changed, and climbed into bed facing the wall. That same night, I noticed something else. Her phone was silent. Not just on vibrate, silent. No notification sounds, no buzzing, nothing. The screen lit up a few times, but she never picked it up. And the phone always face down. Always. The next morning, I asked, "Is your phone okay?" She blinked. "Yeah, why?" "I just noticed it wasn't making any sound last night. You didn't check it once." She laughed, trying to be less attached. "Isn't that a good thing?" I nodded, but my stomach turned. Then came the clothes. Taylor was always effortlessly beautiful, but casual. She'd leave the house in jeans and sneakers, hair in a loose braid, no makeup most days. But now she was switching it up. She'd leave dressed down, and an hour later I'd get a photo on her story. Lipstick on, heels, hair curled. Same day, different woman. I asked her once, jokingly, "Where do you find time to change like that?" She smiled, brushing it off. "Sometimes I keep a change of clothes in my car. I just like to feel put together at work." But the heels weren't for the office. And the smoky eye makeup wasn't for spreadsheets. I knew it. I just didn't want to admit it yet. Another weekend, she told me she was going to her sister's place across town. "Just for the night," she said. "We're overdue for some sister time." Sounded normal enough until her sister posted a picture that night from Mexico. A beach margarita in hand captioned sunsets and no responsibilities. I stared at the post for 10 full minutes before the knot in my stomach morphed into something heavier. Something I couldn't unfeel. I didn't confront Taylor. Not then. I just watched. Waited. Noticed. There was a perfume I started smelling around her, new, musky, expensive. Not her usual scent. She said she got a sample in a subscription box. I nodded, but the smell clung to the passenger seat in her car, too. Stronger than it should have been if she were the only one wearing it. Then there was the lingerie. Not mine, not hers. At least not anything I'd ever seen her wear. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found a lace set tucked deep in the back of a drawer. Black. Delicate. Tag still on. I held it in my hands like it was evidence from a crime scene. We hadn't been in *made in weeks. Maybe months if I was being honest. Every time I reached for her, she turned away gently, saying she was tired, stressed, not feeling it. But someone was seeing that version of her I hadn't seen in a long time. The thing about suspicion is it doesn't go away. It grows. It multiplies. It rewrites your memories and makes you replay old conversations in a different light. I started thinking back over the past few months. The little things I dismissed, phone calls she took in the car with the windows up, the time she got visibly flustered when I walked into the room while she was texting, the way she suddenly had a password on her laptop when she never did before. Then there was the app. She once let me use her phone to look up a recipe while I was cooking. As I typed into the browser, a push notification slid down from the top. Signal, new message from EM. It disappeared almost instantly, but I saw it. Signal. An encrypted messaging app. One she'd never mentioned having. I stared at the screen a few seconds too long before she walked over and took it gently from my hand. Thanks, she said, smiling quickly. Need to respond to a work email. Just like that. After that moment, I stopped pretending. The puzzle pieces weren't random anymore. They were aligning. Building a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't look away from. Every time she came home late, I tracked the time. Every time she claimed she was running errands but came back without bags, I made a mental note. I even started checking her calendar app, which used to be synced to mine through her shared iCloud account. She must have forgotten about it because her entries started telling a story too. Lunches at unfamiliar places. Evening meetings that didn't show up on her work calendar. Blocks of time marked only with vague phrases like catch up or consult. One Friday, she told me she was going to a coworker's birthday dinner. Said it was just girls. She even showed me a group photo afterward, 4 women posing around a restaurant table. But something was off. The timestamp on the photo's metadata showed it had been taken at 6:03 p.m. She didn't leave the house until nearly 7. I kept digging. That weekend, I found an Uber receipt in her email. She'd been dropped off at an address across town, nowhere near the restaurant she claimed. When I asked her how dinner was, she said, we stayed pretty local, just a little Italian place near the office. I smiled. Lied back. Glad you had fun. I didn't bring up the receipt. Or the metadata. Or the app. Not yet. I was collecting. Storing. Not just evidence, but clarity. The truth was assembling itself, even if she wouldn't say it out loud. Even if I wasn't ready to hear it from her lips. At night, I'd lie beside her and wonder, who is she texting in the dark? Who gets to see her smile now? Who knows the version of her that used to be mine? I wanted to be wrong. I really did. I wanted this to be in my head, to be the product of paranoia or insecurity or too many late-night thoughts fueled by silence and distance. But the facts were stacking too high. And soon I knew there'd be no denying it anymore. They say if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. I wasn't even looking anymore, not really. By that point, I already knew. Deep down, the truth had taken root and no amount of pretending was going to unearth it. But I needed something more than instincts. Something more than perfume and passwords and late nights that didn't add up. I needed to see it. Needed to strip away the denials and the soft deflections and the too quick smiles. I needed certainty, even if it broke me. So I planned a day off quietly. I didn't tell Taylor. Just let her believe I had a packed Thursday, meetings and reports and calls. I even set my out-of-office email to make it official. That morning, I kissed her goodbye like I always did, coffee in hand, tie slightly crooked. She smiled, pressed her lips to mine, and said, hope your day isn't too brutal. It'll be fine, I said, and forced a smile that made my jaw ache. I watched from the upstairs window as she pulled out of the driveway in her car, same as always. The clock on my phone read 8:12 a.m. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and notebook and followed 10 minutes later. Her office building was tucked behind a strip of stores downtown, a modest, two-story brick space with tinted windows. I parked across the street, half hidden behind a delivery van, and waited. She was supposed to start at 8:30. Plenty of time. At 8:27, I saw her walk toward the front door. She had on a blazer over a silky maroon top and dark jeans, heels clicking softly on the pavement. I recognized the earrings, silver hoops I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago. She wore them that night we celebrated our anniversary on the coast. The night I thought she meant every word when she said, "I couldn't imagine my life without you." She reached the door but didn't go in. Instead, she stopped, looked around, then walked past it. I sat forward in the seat. My heart was already pounding. Taylor turned the corner, and a few seconds later, she approached a car parked 2 blocks down. A silver Lexus idling. She opened the passenger door and slipped in like she'd done it 100 times. The car pulled away, no hesitation. I followed. Carefully. Far enough behind to not draw attention, close enough to keep eyes on them. They didn't go to another office. They didn't go to a coffee shop or a hotel. They drove to a house. It was tucked near the lake, one of those newer builds with tall windows and clean lines, surrounded by trees and privacy. The kind of place where you could disappear if you wanted to. They parked in the driveway and I coasted a little further, parking behind a row of hedges that lined the edge of the property. From my angle, I could see most of the house. The front door. The big window that looked into the living room. The silhouette of them stepping inside, coats still on. Her laugh, soft and muffled, floated faintly through the air when the door opened. I turned off the engine. Sat still. The house was quiet for a few minutes. Then movement. They stepped into the living room. He was tall. Dark hair. Well-dressed, like someone used to giving presentations or running meetings. He looked comfortable. She did too. More than comfortable, actually at ease. Relaxed in a way I hadn't seen her in months. They sat on the couch close. She kicked off her shoes. He leaned toward her. She smiled. And then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, he kissed her. Not quickly. Not like friends. It wasn't a peck or a thank you or a goodbye. It was slow. Familiar. An asterisk mate. I didn't even realize I was holding my phone until I felt my hand shaking. I hit record. The camera caught it all, from the slow lean-in to the hand he rested on her thigh. She didn't resist. Didn't flinch. She kissed him back like he was hers. Like she belonged there. And just like that, the fog of doubt was gone. The possibility of misunderstanding evaporated. It was real. It was happening. I'd caught her in the act. But there was no satisfaction in the clarity. No rush of vindication. Just a heavy, quiet kind of grief. Like something sacred had been vandalized right in front of me and all I could do was watch. I stayed there for another 30 minutes. They moved around the house like it was their routine. She poured wine into stemless glasses from a bottle that had already been opened. He put on music, something soft and ambient. They danced for a moment barefoot in the living room. Eventually, I turned off my phone and put it in the glove box. I couldn't watch anymore. My hands were sweating. My head was hot. I drove away. I didn't go home. I didn't even know where home was anymore. I just drove, miles and miles, across town, past the neighborhoods we looked at when we were house hunting, past the taco place where we used to sit in the back booth and split churros. I drove past all the places that still thought we were happy. I ended up at a gas station just outside city limits, pulled into a parking spot and just sat. My phone buzzed. It was Taylor. "Hey, just leaving the office now. Can I pick up anything for dinner?" I stared at the message until my eyes blurred. She was lying in real time, not even flinching. Typing that message while her hair probably still smelled like the man she had just kissed in that house. I didn't reply. That night I made dinner. She came home at 6:40. Same smile, same casual coat slung over her arm. She kissed me on the cheek. Said traffic was awful. Said she was glad to be home. Asked if I wanted to watch a movie after we ate. I said sure. We sat on the couch and watched a thriller. She laughed at the wrong moments. Reached for the popcorn like nothing in the world was wrong. Later, around 9 o'clock, she got up from the couch and said, "Crap. I forgot, I promised I'd help Danny with a late-night filing. She's swamped. I won't be long." She kissed my forehead, grabbed her purse, and left. I didn't ask questions. 10 minutes later, I was back in the car, headlights off, engine silent as I followed her. This time she didn't even pretend. She drove straight to a mall parking lot where the same Lexus was waiting. She got in. They didn't drive anywhere. They just sat there, windows slightly fogged, her face turned toward his. I saw their silhouettes lean in again. This time I didn't film it. I didn't need to. I already knew everything I needed to know. The strange thing about betrayal is how ordinary everything can still look on the outside. A smile, a dinner, a laugh, they all survive long after the truth doesn't. I used to think when someone cheated it came with distance, coldness, slipped masks. But Taylor? She played her part like she was born for it. The morning after the mall parking lot, I woke up early. I hadn't slept much, just lay there in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to the shallow rhythm of her breathing. She rolled over once during the night and reached for me in her sleep, reflex, probably. Her fingers grazed mine. I didn't move. When she finally woke up, she stretched and smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Said she had a craving for pancakes. Asked if I wanted to hit that diner we used to go to before we got married. I said sure. I was done trying to understand her choices. I just wanted to see how long she'd keep up the show. At breakfast, she talked about work. About maybe getting a new haircut. She asked if I wanted to plan a weekend trip together soon, just the two of us. We need a reset, she said, pouring syrup onto her pancakes. Something to break the routine. I just nodded. Because routine wasn't the problem. She was. The following few days passed like that. Polished smiles, surface-level affection, questions about my day that sounded almost sincere. And I played along. I responded when she spoke, laughed when I was supposed to. I even kissed her goodbye one morning and told her I loved her. The words tasted like ash, but I said them anyway. That night I followed her again. She said she had a client mixer. Business casual, high energy, good for networking. I watched her meet him at a gas station this time, just outside downtown. He got into her car. They drove off together. I didn't follow them. I didn't need more evidence. I had enough. The next morning I started organizing it. Everything I had: photos, videos, timestamps, location pings, calendar entries. I printed *TS from the synced iCloud. Made copies of Uber receipts she never deleted from her email. Downloaded the Signal app just to see how she might be using it, learning how messages disappear after being read. I couldn't see her actual chats, she was too careful, but the icon alone was proof. I created a folder. Labeled it, July Present. Like a case file. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one who saw it. A few nights later, we went out for dinner. Her idea. She made a reservation at a seafood place we hadn't been to in years. Said she felt nostalgic. She dressed up for it, new dress, subtle makeup, that careful perfume again. She looked beautiful. She always did. That never changed. I just stopped recognizing the person behind the eyes. During the drive home, she hummed along to an old playlist we used to share. Some of the songs still held memories: road trips, anniversaries, the night we moved into our house. I turned the volume down. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing. Just thinking." She smiled softly. "You've been really quiet lately." I looked over at her. "Have I?" "Yeah," she said, her voice light. "Weird quiet. Not the good kind." I nodded and turned the music off completely. When we got home, she went upstairs first to shower. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the empty table. That's when the thought hit me. She was going to do this forever if I let her. She was going to cheat on me, lie to my face, then crawl into bed next to me and ask if I wanted breakfast in the morning. And somehow she thought she could balance both worlds without one crashing into the other. So I decided it was time to introduce gravity. The next day, I did something I hadn't thought about before. I searched for him. The man. I didn't have his name yet, but I had enough. The license plate from the Lexus. A few *TS of him at the lake house and the parking lot. I uploaded one to a reverse image tool just out of curiosity. I didn't expect much, but it worked. His name was Elliot Marks. Architect. Mid-40s. Married. 2 kids. Lives about 20 minutes west of us. There was a whole LinkedIn profile and a company website with his face smiling back at me in front of an office blueprint. Married. Of course he was. I found his wife's name in a local PTA event listing, Jenna Marks. It took me 2 more days to decide what to do. I waited until a Thursday afternoon. The house was quiet. Taylor was at work. I emailed Jenna from a clean, anonymous account I created just for that moment. I kept it short, polite, direct. "Hi Jenna. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. I believe our spouses are involved with each other. I'm reaching out not to start conflict, but to share information. If you're willing, I can send you what I found. M." She replied in under 3 hours. "Please send everything." J. I did. *TS. Photos. Video clips. The file with calendar discrepancies. Even the flyer from the hotel tucked into that jacket pocket. I sent it all. Then silence. 3 hours passed. Then 5. I figured maybe she'd decided to sit with it. Maybe she was in shock. Maybe she didn't believe it. Around 10:37 that night, I got her response. I can't believe what I just saw. But I believe you. This explains everything. I've had my suspicions for months. Thank you. She signed it with her name this time. Jenna. We exchanged a few more messages over the next couple days. Just logistical, nothing personal. She asked for permission to use my recordings if needed. I said yes. She offered the same in return. And then we formed a plan. It wasn't revenge. Not exactly. But we both agreed if they weren't going to come clean, we'd do it for them. One night over email, Jenna wrote, "They've had all the control. They've had all the silence. I think it's time that ends." I couldn't have said it better myself. That weekend, Taylor suggested we go to her friend Jess's wedding. You know Jess, she said. From college. The one who used to bartend? She's finally getting married. I remembered Jess vaguely. She had visited us once for Thanksgiving years ago. Taylor made a joke about how Jess used to date guys for the drama, not the potential. Now Jess was marrying someone she met at a yoga retreat. I already RSVP'd for both of us, Taylor added. You're going. No excuses. I looked at her across the kitchen and said wouldn't miss it. She laughed and called me cheesy. The wedding was set at a botanical garden just outside town, glass ceilings, vines draping from beams, soft lighting everywhere. Taylor looked radiant that day. She wore a pale green dress that shimmered when she moved. People complimented her all night. At the reception, she was lively, glowing. She toasted the couple. She danced. She pulled me onto the dance floor once and spun me into a twirl that made everyone around us laugh. She even made a joke in her speech, and to my husband, Michael, thank you for letting me flirt with the waiter without starting a scene. Everyone laughed. So did I. But my eyes didn't. Because just 2 tables away, seated beside my younger brother Alex, was Jenna. Taylor hadn't noticed her yet. And when the music quieted and the lights dimmed for a special video presentation, the kind Jess had told Taylor was a montage of childhood memories, I watched her expression shift. The first few clips were sweet. Then it changed. A new video began to play. Security footage from a lake house. Car rides. Parking lots. Overlays of calendar entries and photos with names attached. Elliot's face. Taylor's too. Clear. Unmistakable. Someone in the crowd gasped. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, surrounded by 100 people, Taylor stood still in the center of the room as everything around her shattered. Taylor didn't say a word on the drive home from the wedding. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. She didn't ask why or how. She just sat beside me in the passenger seat, her body rigid, her hands folded tight in her lap like she was bracing for impact that had already come and gone. I didn't speak either. What was there to say? We pulled into the driveway sometime after 10. She didn't move at first. Just stared straight ahead, lips parted, jaw clenched, like she hadn't taken a full breath in hours. Finally, she whispered, "Was that you?" I turned off the engine. The quiet of the neighborhood pressed in around us. "Does it matter?" I said. She didn't respond. She got out of the car, walked slowly toward the front door, and for a moment I thought she might collapse. Her heels wobbled slightly on the brick walkway, and her dress, so perfect earlier that evening, now looked like a costume someone forgot to take off after the show was over. I didn't offer to help. Inside, she went straight upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stood by the sink, staring out the window into the darkness. The echo of that reception played in my mind on loop, the footage, the stunned gasps, the silence that followed. Jenna had handled the tech. She coordinated the video. My brother Alex helped make sure Jess was in on it too, even offered his laptop as the presentation source. Jess hadn't liked Taylor since college anyway. Claimed Taylor was the type to smile with her mouth and lie with her eyes. She wasn't wrong. The next morning, Taylor didn't come down for breakfast. I didn't expect her to. I found her suitcase beside the door around 10 a.m. She was upstairs on the phone, pacing. I only caught pieces, whispers about privacy, work, and damage control. She sounded like a politician trying to spin a scandal. Later that day, she left without saying goodbye. I didn't follow her. Didn't ask where she was going. I just got to work. I backed up every file. Every email. I saved browser history, phone logs, cloud data, anything I thought she might try to delete or manipulate. I wasn't just documenting an affair anymore. I was documenting a pattern of behavior. Of deceit. Of betrayal. I wasn't interested in vengeance. I was interested in truth. In proof. In leverage. That same day, I met with a divorce attorney. Her name was Elaine Winters. Late 40s, sharp-eyed, matter-of-fact. She didn't blink when I slid the folder across her desk. How long, she asked, flipping through the contents. About 5 months, I said. Maybe longer. And she doesn't know you filed? Not yet. Elaine nodded. Good. Keep it that way. We went over the details. Assets. Property. Bank accounts. Taylor and I had shared nearly everything financially, mortgage, savings, insurance, but the affair gave me grounds to contest nearly all of it. California wasn't always forgiving, but documented infidelity still had weight in court. Especially with this kind of paper trail. She'll probably push for negotiation, Elaine said. Try to settle quietly. But if she fights this, if she tries to play innocent, I can guarantee she'll lose more than she expects. Let her try, I said. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in months. It wasn't just about ending the marriage anymore. It was about reclaiming my voice. The one I'd been slowly choking down, day by day, while pretending not to notice what was happening right in front of me. That night, I got a message from Jenna. He knows. I told him everything. It got ugly, but it's done. He moved out this afternoon. I replied simply, good. You okay? Better now. Thank you for everything, Michael. Seriously. I don't think I could have done this without you. You did what needed to be done, I typed. So did I. We didn't talk much after that. There wasn't anything else to say. We weren't allies anymore. We were just two people who'd been burned by the same fire and finally stepped out of it. The next few days were quiet. Taylor didn't come home. I didn't ask where she was staying. I didn't care. What mattered now was getting through the process. But then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, I got a text from her. Can we talk? Just once. Please. I stared at it for a while. Eventually, I replied, tomorrow. Noon. House. Don't be late. When she arrived, she looked like she hadn't slept. Her hair was pulled back in a loose knot, and her coat was soaked from the rain. She carried nothing, no purse, no phone visible. Just herself. I opened the door. Said nothing. Let her walk in. She stood in the living room, arms folded tight. I deserve that, she said quietly, looking around like she didn't recognize the space anymore. I didn't move. Didn't invite her to sit. So talk, I said. She swallowed hard. I know you're filing. I figured that out. And I'm not going to fight it. I needed to see you. One more time. Without lawyers. Without other people. I raised an eyebrow. To do what? Apologize? Explain. She nodded slowly. Both. I guess. I leaned against the doorway. Crossed my arms. Then go ahead. She exhaled. Shaky. Uneven. I never meant for it to get that far. It started as I don't know, boredom? Disconnection? I thought it was harmless at first. Just someone noticing me. Someone saying the right things. I stayed quiet. She kept going. And then it turned into something else. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even really about him. It was about feeling like I mattered again. I know that sounds selfish, and it is. I won't pretend otherwise. You had options, Taylor, I said flatly. You could have talked to me. Left me. Asked for space. But instead you lied. Every single day. Her face crumpled. I know. And I hate myself for it. You didn't deserve this. You didn't do anything wrong. I tilted my head. So why did you do it? Her answer came fast, raw. Because I wanted to feel like I had control. Like I still had a choice in who I was. And because I thought, stupidly, that you'd never find out. That I could keep both lives going and no one would get hurt. Well, I said, you were half right. She wiped her eyes. I'll sign whatever you put in front of me. No contest. No excuses. I just wanted you to hear it from me first. You wanted me to hear you say you destroyed our marriage because you were bored? She winced. No. I wanted you to know I regret it. Every part of it. I shook my head. Too late for regret. You don't burn a house down and apologize for the smoke. She didn't reply. Just stood there, small and shaking. I'm moving out next week, I said. Found a place near Maine. It's temporary. She nodded. I'll come get my stuff. I won't make it harder than it already is. Good. She hesitated. Is there someone else? Now? The question caught me off guard. I didn't answer. She nodded anyway. Doesn't matter. You deserve someone better. Someone honest. She turned to leave, but stopped at the door. I never stopped loving you, she said. Even when I was messing everything up. I still loved you. I didn't respond. She left. And that was the last time we ever spoke face to face. Over the following week, I packed what I needed, canceled utilities, forwarded mail. The house felt emptier with each passing day. Not in a sad way, more like the air was finally clearing. Like the lies were being scrubbed from the walls, one box at a time. When I finally locked the front door for the last time, I didn't look back. Some stories don't get endings. They just stop being written.